Mindfulness. Prevent worrying and anxiety with mindful thinking. Written by Erica Showdown. Narrated by Sarah Margrave. Table of Contents. Chapter 1. Mindfulness Exercises. Chapter 2. Scientific Ways to Boost Your Brain Health. Chapter 3. How to Stop Buying the Negative Thoughts of Depression. Chapter 4. Stop worrying by staying present with mindfulness. Chapter 5. How to become more conscious in your everyday life. Chapter 6. How to eliminate job stress after work. Chapter 7. Fitting it into your busy schedule. Chapter 1. Mindfulness Exercises. Though we may not understand it, using our focus on our tech drains energy, and we can end up getting attention fatigue without truly understanding why. A sort of chronic sleepiness can emerge. We might not feel bad precisely, but we sure don't feel very good either. We need to take conscious breaks, which help us pay attention to the present moment, to overcome this attention fatigue. If you're uncertain how conscious you are to begin with, you may want to take this short well-being test, which tells you your scores for mindfulness and other aspects of wellness. Now what do? Try these 4 steps to make mindfulness workouts a part of your regimen. Number 1. Take breaks from innovation and media. To be more mindful and get rid of attention fatigue, we initially really need to take breaks from media and technology to give our attention a break. However, naturally, the majority of us cannot avoid technology forever. We still have to live our lives. So, to maintain our joy, we really need to regularly take part in corrective experiences or go to restorative environments, which is in itself a mindfulness exercise, to develop our mindfulness skills. Number 2. Have restorative experiences. Corrective experiences are those that have 3 parts. They are different from our typical routine. They're remarkable to some extent, and they fit your needs and interests. Although a lot of experiences could be corrective, it ends up that getting out in nature tends to be one of the best ones because it so quickly pleases these 3 requirements. For example, to get to nature, the majority of us have to step out of our routine lives and do something a bit different. In nature, there are unlimited things to stimulate fascination: trees, plants, animals, and other sights that we are not used to seeing. Walking in a nearby park or spending an afternoon in a botanical or community garden appears to be enough to satisfy our need to escape and experience fascination. This kind of mindfulness exercise helps us overcome our attention fatigue so that we can be more present. Number 3. Plan for your little vacations. It might seem hard in the beginning to find these experiences. Who has the time, energy, or cash to truly get away? We may need to go to a local park instead of our dream beach getaway to reboot our conscious self. So take a minute now to think of what sorts of restorative experiences would work for you. Be sure to think of some experiences you could have in nature, but feel free to involve other places too. For example, you might try going to an art gallery, an automobile show, an animal shop, a local farm, a musical event, or any number of other events that are different, interesting, and intriguing to you. Number 4. Stick to your mindfulness exercises. Schedule a time to try a bunch of these experiences. Spend at the very least 10 to 15 minutes in the corrective environment, but the longer the better. And when you're done, review how it made you feel. Preferably, try some different experiences to see which ones work best for you. Nonetheless, remember that if you continue going to the exact same place, the advantages are likely to decline. So make certain you have several restorative environments to select from. Ideally, you'll get a chance to feel more conscious, even if only for some minutes a day. Chapter 2: Scientific Ways to Boost Your Brain Health. Your brain is a complex and dynamic structure, consisting of about 86 billion neurons or afferent neurons. Each nerve cell is connected to countless other nerve cells, forming elaborate networks of neural connections that send information to help us perform important functions like breathing, moving, remembering, reacting to threats, gaining from experience, controlling impulses, and forming attachment relationships. Cultivating ideal brain health is the structure for healthy and effective living, learning, and loving. Research shows that you can enhance brain power by living much healthier, napping, and practicing mindfulness, which has been revealed to alter the physical structure of the brain in advantageous ways. Below are 6 useful ways that you can improve brain health. Number 1. Eat a Mediterranean diet. Incorporating more fruits, veggies, and lean protein sources in your diet can help safeguard your brain, according to the current research. A 2017 study by researchers at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland revealed that eating a Mediterranean diet may protect against memory and thinking damage relating to aging. This kind of diet plan consists mainly of olive oil, veggies, fruits, fish, beans, dairy, and healthy grains, and less white processed flour, red meat, and sugar. In this research study of practically 1,000 people, elderly adults who followed the Mediterranean diet principles more carefully were less likely to lose overall brain volume over a 3-year time period. Various other studies suggest that consuming extra virgin olive oil, which is a very large part of the Mediterranean diet, can protect memory and learning capability. Number 2. Eat a ketogenic diet plan. A ketogenic diet plan includes low carbohydrate intake and higher fat consumption, in addition to moderate protein. The Atkins diet plan is an example of a ketogenic approach to eating. The idea is to consume about 70% calories from fat, 20 to 25% from protein, and only 5 to 10% from carbohydrates. Research studies show memory advantages of a ketogenic diet plan in mildly memory-impaired adults, type 1 diabetics, and individuals with Alzheimer's. The impacts of this kind of diet on healthy adult brains haven't been too studied. The idea behind a ketogenic diet is that when the brain can't depend on carbs to get the glucose it needs, your body produces ketones from fats in the liver, which function as an alternate source of brain fuel, increasing your brain and body's efficiency in burning fat for energy. Number 3. Eat brain-healthy foods. Certain healthy fruits and vegetables have been revealed to anticipate improved performance on cognitive and memory tests and higher levels of healthy brain chemicals. Nuts contain magnesium, which benefits memory. In a 2015 study from UCLA, walnut consumption was related to higher cognitive test scores. Avocados are high in monounsaturated fats, shown to protect brain cells. Blueberries, leafy green vegetables like kale, peppermint tea, coffee, and almonds have all been linked to healthy brain substances or improved memory efficiency. Blueberries consist of antioxidants that improve brain health and also have anti-inflammatory properties. Number 4. Take a 40-minute nap. Sleeping gives your brain and body a chance to repair work cells, combine memories, and recharge itself. Sleeping well can enhance memory and cognitive function, and heart function also. Studies show taking a snooze helps us retain new information better. In one research study, participants memorized detailed cards to check their memorization abilities. After remembering a set of cards, they had a 40-minute break in which one group snoozed and the other stayed awake. After the break, the group who had taken a snooze performed better on a test of their memory of the cards. Sleeping is pushing memories from the hippocampus to the cortex, which enables more permanent storage and integration with other info. Number 5. Get up and get active. Anaerobic exercise has been displayed in numerous research studies to have a host of brain and memory benefits, while sedentary behavior has been linked to obesity and elevated mortality. In a research study presented at the 2016 meeting of the Radiological Society of North America, scholar Laura D. Baker from Wake Forest University and her colleague compared the impacts of aerobic exercise to stretching in adults with mild cognitive problems. Both groups exercised 4 times a week over a 6-month period. While both groups experienced a boost in brain volume in specific parts, the aerobic exercise group revealed greater gains. According to Dr. Kim, the co-investigator on the study, compared to the stretching group, the aerobic activity group had a lot more preservation of overall brain volume, increased local gray matter volume, and increased directional stretch of brain tissue. Number 6. Practice mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness is a meditation practice and attitude to living that trains the brain to fixate on the present moment with open, compassionate, non-judgmental awareness rather than just responding automatically, being self-critical, and surviving on autopilot. A meta-analysis, analytical evaluation, of over 20 neuroimaging studies from 300 meditation practitioners revealed that mindfulness resulted in considerable medium influence size changes in 8 different brain parts consisting of areas connected with memory debt consolidation, hippocampus, body awareness, self-awareness, feeling regulation. Maybe this is the reason that so many large businesses, like Google, have acknowledged mindfulness training for their workers. We can all give our brains a healthy reboot by following research-based concepts for living, eating, sleeping, exercising, and handling our tension. Chapter 3. How to stop buying the negative thoughts of depression. Millions of males and females experience depression each year. Being depressed is a miserable experience, as I know not just from my medical work, but from personal experience. It's hard to feel fully alive when you're down all the time and struggling to find pleasure in any activity. Poor sleep, low energy, psychological fog, and other symptoms add to the pain. While there are effective forms of treatment for depression, many individuals do not find them valuable or get only minimal relief. This is an example. In the STAR-D trial, one of the largest depression treatment research studies to date, only about 1/3 of depressed participants were depression-free after 12 to 14 weeks of treatment with a selected serotonin reuptake inhibitor, SSRI. That was a much better outcome than placebo, but it left 2 out of 3 people with considerable signs of continuous depression. Efficient forms of psychotherapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, result in similar outcomes, with many individuals enhancing, but great deals continuing to have a problem with signs. Combining medication and psychotherapy, while marginally better, is not the magic bullet of depression treatment. For instance, in the STAR-D research study, about half of depressed participants were still depressed, even after 12 weeks of medication plus 12 weeks of cognitive treatment. Mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. These limitations have caused the search for other potentially practical treatments. I just recently talked to psychoanalyst Dr. Stuart Essendrath about one such treatment called mindfulness-based cognitive treatment, MBCT. As the name suggests, it combines the best-tested psychotherapy for depression with practices in conscious awarenessness, which includes focusing on the present and letting go of resistance to reality. Most kinds of psychotherapy fixate on attempting to get rid of symptoms. Conventional cognitive treatment, for instance, teaches an individual to recognize and challenge the negative automatic thoughts that are really common in depression. So if your mind tells you, "You're such a moron, you're always screwing things up," your therapist would work with you to determine those thoughts and consider the evidence for and against them. Together, you would intend to develop more effective and fact-based points of view. MBCT offers a very different method in which you would work to alter how you associate with depressive thoughts. Eisendrath used this valuable metaphor to clarify. If you're walking down the main street of town, you could see certain storefronts with different depressive thoughts on display, he said. Normally, in depression, you would get into the store and buy those thoughts, and after that return out and start walking down the street having those thoughts with you. Cognitive treatment would also include going into the store and directly engaging with the thoughts. You may point out to the shop owner that the thoughts on display are misleading, accuse them of false advertising, and need that they change the thoughts. Maybe the shop owner would nod understandingly, agree with all your viewpoints, and then refuse to alter the display at all. By contrast, a mindful response to the thoughts includes seeing them through the window without going into the store. You notice the depressive thoughts in the store, said Eisendrath, and you don't get rid of observing those thoughts. However, you do not go in and buy them, and you don't need to carry them with you as you decrease the street. This approach can be really useful for the ones that struggle to change their negative perspectives, which, in my experience, is a pretty large percentage of adults with depression. Even when they know logically that their thoughts are unrealistically negative and that they're being too hard on themselves, the thoughts stubbornly continue. And ironically, debating with your negative thoughts can make them appear more vital, like an issue that has to be solved before you can carry on and be in your life. A mindful response to depressive thoughts allows you to let go of the struggle with them and to simply exist side by side alongside the thoughts. You have the ability to continue walking down the street, said Eisendrath, and you can still go where you want in life, even with the negative automated thoughts in your head. Mindful responses to depression symptoms. There are countless techniques for responding mindfully to depressed mindsets. What all of them have in common is bringing our attention to what's happening at this moment and adopting a mindset of approval. Simply remaining in this moment helps diminish depression because you're not laying on the negative story about the future, said Eisendrath. You're just concentrating on the present. Here are some practices for changing your relationship with depressive thoughts. Be present in your body. Connecting with the body is just one of the most effective ways of releasing resistance and bringing your attention into the present. Eisendrath advised asking yourself questions like, what do I notice as I'm depressed right in this moment? A tension in the shoulders or chest? A headache? Instead of making these sensations a problem, wonder about your experience. What's going on in my body right now? Breathe. Just like the body, Your breath is always there with you. Practice breathing with your inner thoughts, emotions, and physical feelings. As the body opens up to the breath, let your spirit open up to your experiences just like it is. Fixate on your senses. When you find yourself stuck in negative patterns of thoughts, then come to your senses. Thoroughly note something you see, something you hear, and a touch sensation that you understand. The aim is not to push the negative attitude to stop, but to change the channel, expanding your attention past the narrow spotlight of upsetting thoughts. Do what matters. Depression often promotes a concentration on how we're feeling, why we feel that way, and how we can get rid of bad feelings. Doing something essential to you can be a really mindful way to break depression's preoccupation with itself. Rather than concentrating on how you're feeling, ask yourself what needs to be done. Taking out the trash, doing the dishes, writing an email that you have been postponing. Let the action be as huge or as little as you can manage. Perhaps at this time it's simply brushing your teeth. Seeing ourselves move through depression is just one of the most efficient ways to change our relationship with difficult thoughts and feelings. Chapter 4. Stop worrying by staying present with mindfulness. Excessive concern seems to continue to be on the rise, even affecting teens more than ever, and can have disastrous repercussions. Worry and stress can contribute to sleep issues, which can have serious implications, physical issues, and obviously psychological health problems, including full-blown anxiety conditions. Let's fixate on a crucial mind hack that will help you to keep your fretting in check and decrease stress. The value of staying present in the moment. One key mind hack to keep your concern at bay is an easy concept, but can be more difficult to implement when your concern gremlins begin to rear their ugly heads. It's pretty difficult to worry when you are focused just on the present moment that you are in. Worry is generally always about the future, and occasionally about the past. It is almost unrealistic to be restless or worried when your mind is in the here and now. The role of mindfulness. Staying present is simpler said than done. There are a lot of interruptions in your life and things to remember, concentrated on anything except for the present moment. In reality, concern is really just protecting in a few ways to help us anticipate dangerous circumstances. That is one reason it can be so hard to shut stress off. One of the best tools to practice staying present is mindfulness. Mindfulness is basically an accepting, open, non-judgmental, and curious concentration on someone's psychological, cognitive, and sensory experience in the present moment. Simply put, mindfulness exists moment self-awareness. You can practice consciousness of the present moment at any time, or cultivate a mindfulness meditation practice in which a certain time of your day is dedicated towards practicing mindfulness meditation. Practical tips for being more conscious. Finding 20 minutes a day or more to sit down and meditate might appear near to unrealistic. The good news is that you do not need to cultivate a continuous meditative practice in order to gain the rewards of being more mindful in your daily life. The exact same mobile phone that can quickly take you out of the present moment can also act as a reminder for you to go back to the present moment. You can make your mobile device your mindfulness device by utilizing it to set reminders that go off through the day that motivates you to remain in the moment. When your tip goes off, just stop whatever you are doing for 30 seconds or so and focus your consciousness on the present moment. Check in with yourself and ask yourself about how you are feeling mentally and physically, and what you are thinking about. Mindfulness is really all about accepting, non-critical, and open. So respect yourself and curious about your experience. You could notice throughout these times that your head is all finished up and worrying about the future. Make sure that you use these moments as a chance to return to the present moment. Remind yourself that no matter what happens in the future, you are going to have the ability to manage it. After all, you always have been able to deal with whatever life has thrown at you. Just practicing this several times a day should cause you to be more present overall, and you are going to likely see a decrease in any persistent fretting. While there are numerous ways to slow down and be more present, the key to reducing the concern is remembering the importance of doing so. Chapter 5: How to Become More Conscious in Your Everyday Life. The practice of mindfulness, directing all of your attention and consciousness to the present, can bring many benefits to your psychological and physical health, as well as to the relationships in your life. Among its many benefits, practicing everyday mindfulness can pull you out of the negative down spiral that can be caused by way too much daily tension, too many tiffs, or the routine of rumination. Help you make less mistakes when processing your experiences. Help you put difficult events into perspective and build strength, so you are less overwhelmed by them in the future. And even though there are a lot of mindfulness things that you can do, you can practice regularly, learning how to be present in the moment is also a lifestyle. With practice, you can learn to live a more conscious life that permits you to get more mindful of every little thing that you are doing. It can be hard in today's busy world to pause and exist, however. After all, there are many things contending for your attention, and there is a lot of pressure to multitask. However, if you are intentional about being more mindful at the time of your everyday life, you can live with greater purpose and more happiness. Practice mindful eating. Whether you eat while you scroll through your phone or you grab food for psychological comfort, meaningless eating is pretty common, and it can contribute to a host of problems, like overindulging and taking in way too much sugar. Practice becoming more conscious about how you fuel your body. Resist the desire to multitask while you eat. When you eat, exist with your food. Pay more attention to each bite that you're taking. Chew your food slowly and appreciate the taste. You may notice your body's signals about when you are getting full and pay more attention to what's on your plate. When you become more deliberate about what you're eating, you'll be better equipped to concentrate on fueling your body with the nourishment it needs. Be mindful in your interactions. Whether you're interacting with your partner, your kids, or an associate, conscious interactions are essential. Mindfulness in a relationship is all about observing what the other person is doing in a non-judgmental way. It's also about staying present in the moment throughout your discussions. So instead of scrolling through your phone while you're with somebody, give them your undistracted attention. And rather than crafting your counterclaim while they are sharing their viewpoint, seek to truly hear their message. You can become more conscious by taking note of the way you are feeling, listening thoroughly, and learning to respond to others in a more conscious way, rather than reacting out of anger. Participate in activities mindfully. Do you ever have a tough time recalling whether you cleaned your hair already when you're in the shower? Or do you at times forget why you walked into a specific room? Those are signs that you have a lot of things going on in your mind and you aren't being mindful. Thankfully, you can improve at this, and there are many opportunities to practice throughout the day. Walking, gardening, eating chocolate, and many other activities can be chances to practice mindfulness. You just have to perform them with a heightened sense of awareness. This means concentrating on the present moment, tuning into physical feelings, being fully aware of every little thing that you do, and releasing thoughts of the future or anxiety over the past. Think of cleaning up the home, for example. Start by viewing your work as a positive event, a workout in self-understanding and tension relief, instead of simply as a task. Then, as you clean, fixate on what you are doing as you are doing it, and nothing else. Feel the warm, soapy water on your hands as you wash dishes. Experience the vibrations of the vacuum as you push it over the floor. Enjoy the heat of fresh from the dryer laundry as you fold it. Feel the freedom of releasing unwanted objects as you put them in a box for contribution. Another opportunity to practice mindfulness in your everyday life is when you're listening to music. Really concentrate on the sound and vibration of each note, the feelings that the music stir up in you, and other in-the-moment experiences. Throughout your day, search for opportunities to be more mindful, whether you're riding in the train or you're taking a hot shower. Try to be completely aware of what you're doing and what is happening around you. When your mind wanders, praise yourself for noticing and carefully bring your attention back to the present moment. Pause throughout the day. As you move from one activity to the next throughout the day, it can be rough to stay conscious. You can get back on track by pausing throughout the day to practice several standard mindfulness workouts. You may make it a practice to spend some minutes being mindful at certain times of the day, like during meals or when you're getting in the automobile. Or you may schedule a time to practice meditation or yoga. You can also make it a habit to practice concentrating on your breathing when you are upset or restless. Breathing methods can have a calming influence and help you stay grounded in the present moment. Progressive muscle relaxation is another exercise that you may practice throughout the day. Just work on tensing and unwinding your muscles, one muscle group at a time. With practice, you will learn to recognize when you're tensing up certain parts of your body. Mindfulness takes practice and effort. Nobody is good at it when they initially begin. Your mind is very likely to roam repeatedly. But, with practice and patience, you will get a lot better, and eventually, you'll recognize that you are living a more conscious life and you will be free to enjoy benefits, like decreased tension, better mental health, better relationships, and greater overall joy. Chapter 6. How to eliminate job stress after work. Tons of us take our jobs home with us without recognizing it. Work could be difficult, but when we're supposed to be unwinding, from the minute we leave the office till the next morning when we return, we usually let job stress seep in instead of making the most of our non-work lives. There are many reasons that we do this, but there are more important reasons why we can and should learn to stop. Listen on to acquire a higher understanding of how clever people unknowingly amplify job stress and how you can leave work at work as much as you possibly can. That can reduce your stress levels and increase your general happiness. How we take work home. We think about it during our commute. The drive home from work could be a time to enjoy the flexibility of being off the clock. Or it can be a time to ruminate about the tensions of the day, replay disappointments in your mind, and think about everything that's weighing on your shoulders as you fight road rage till you reach home. All too frequently, people select the latter choice when the previous, letting the drive home be a freeing experience, is so much more beneficial. The issue is that this can magnify stress levels so that they're even higher after the commute home than they were at the end of the workday. If this seems like you, now is the time to take the reins and make your commute a time to brush off the tension of the day. In the coming week, Try to really see your thoughts and practices as you drive home if you're not already aware of them. Do your best to use commute time as a transition time, during which you reset and refocus. You could see it as having some me time to get ready for what you are going to walk into when you go home. We vent about job stress to our loved ones. Complaining about work to a loved one is a typical activity of people with difficult jobs. It feels proficient at the moment, but might take a toll with time. While keeping emotions bottled up isn't an optimum answer, when we spend what could be quality time with loved ones concentrated on all the stresses of the day, we lose more of our day to job stress. The more time that we focus on work, the less time we are being mindful and present and enjoying the moment. Plainly, the less time we can spend grumbling about work, the more time we'll have focused on things that make us happy. Today, try to notice how much time you spend complaining about work and see if this is the right amount of time for you. We ponder about tough colleagues. It's extremely natural to look for psychological support when handling challenging coworkers. Still, just like job tension venting in general, focusing way too much on the tension created by hard colleagues can rob us of the pleasure of our non-work lives. If you find yourself spending non-work hours obsessing over, replaying, and even thinking about the stress that your colleagues bring to your work life, it is time to assess if this is the best way to spend your time and decide how to stop if you really need to. We worry about work rather than relaxing. If you have to deal with a heavy load of stress on the job or have the sort of career that requires significant troubleshooting, it can be tough to shut down the brainstorming part of your brain when you leave work. This is especially true for the ones who work from home. And if finding solutions is fun for you and it doesn't cut into your personal life way too much, it might not be an issue. It might be more of a hobby to think of new ideas for your work, particularly if your work feels more like a calling to you and not just a job. Nevertheless, if you find yourself worrying or ruminating over problems at work, it's best to leave that burden at work. Do not stress. It'll be there when you get back. Most people who are not able to leave work at work have sleep problems, simply because they're replaying every little thing in their mind, and their mind is not able to shut off enough to go to sleep. If worrying about work is interfering with your relaxation or sleep time, consider doing a brain dump or writing an order of business or worry log as part of your bedtime or relaxation routine. We beat ourselves up over this. If all of this is sounding a little too familiar, do not let it worry you. It's relatively common to tense about work when you are not at work, so don't blame yourself. You should focus instead on how to brush off stress and enjoy your life when you are not at work. How to leave job tension at work. Tie up loose ends before you leave. One of the first and best ways you can leave job tension on the job is to prepare yourself before you leave. To reduce after-hours troubleshooting, prepare a to-do list for yourself when you return the next day. This can enable you to come in and feel concentrated, and it can enable you to leave and feel that things are looked after as much as they can be until tomorrow. If you are prone to stressing about unsolved problems when you get home, you may even take it a big step further and create a list of possible options to any issues you think might follow you home. Then, you can remind yourself you've considered it as much as you can, and now you really need to take your mind off of things and sleep on it. Things will be brighter when you go to work again the next day. Knowing that you can help to leave things there and not take that emotional baggage with you. Create a post-work routine. Just as it helps children unwind and go to sleep when they have a bedtime ritual, having a post-work ritual is a great way to help yourself relax after a stressful day of work. Even better, it can be a way to produce a mental habit of unwinding your mind and letting go of job tension after a long day of work. Your regimen might include something easy, like taking a deep, cleaning breath as you walk out and deliberately reminding yourself that you have now left work, both physically and mentally. One martial arts master recommends taking a deep cleansing breath, shaking out your limbs, and psychologically leaving your concerns at the door. It can involve mentally reviewing what you're eagerly anticipating in the rest of your night, or texting a loved one and refocusing your attention to your life. Experiment and see what suits you best. Whatever works for you, it's good to make it a routine and keep doing it. Enjoy your commute home. The ride home from work can be stressful if you keep replaying the stresses of the day or letting traffic stress you out even more. With some planning, you can make your commute home into an experience you eagerly anticipate, rather than another challenge to conquer before you can relax. One way to optimize your commute time is to listen to audiobooks, either fiction for fun or nonfiction in an area where you'd like to grow. Listening to music is also a recognized method for tension relief, and a basic one to do while sitting in an enclosed space. Mentally counting everything you have to be thankful for can not only make the time pass, but can get you into a more positive state of mind and prime you to appreciate your loved ones more when you get home to them. What to do when you arrive at your home. Create a soothing home environment for yourself. Simply because we spend so much of our non-work hours at home, it is very important to have a house environment that relieves your stress instead of one that leaves you feeling more stressed and tired than it should. Because clutter has a subtle but extremely real influence on our stress levels, it pays to declutter as regularly as possible. If your home is a sanctuary from tension, it's simpler to let job tension melt away once you arrive. Treat yourself. Think about those little deals within life that put a smile on your face, and get more of them into your day. Those little happiness boosters, referred to as satisfactions by psychologists, can raise your state of mind in a measurable way and lower stress at the same time. It can be a cup of tea, your preferred comedy, a long walk with a loved one, a calming bath, or anything else that brings you a bit of pleasure. Try to blend them up so that you have a little bit of newness to them and you'll enjoy them a little more. You really deserve it. Cultivate mindfulness. Research suggests that those that have a mindful perspective are more able to fixate on the present moment and turn their focus from the tension of the past or anxiety over the future. This translates into a greater ability to let job tension remain at work and enjoy the time you have each night and weekend to just enjoy life. Practicing mindfulness workouts can increase your ability to maintain this present moment perspective, so they are highly advised for eliminating post-job stress as well as for building resilience to tension. Employ support. If you really need to discuss the important things that stress you at work before you can release them, it helps to have an encouraging individual who will listen and help you to let go of the tension. Depending on what helps you the most, this could be somebody who verifies your emotions and helps you to refocus, who helps you to brainstorm and troubleshoot, or who lets you vent and turn your disappointments into laughter. Getting support can also involve having somebody to carefully remind you to refocus your thoughts and energy if you start getting bogged down by stressful thoughts of work. Ultimately, if you're feeling overwhelmed by job stress, employing help can mean talking to your physician about stress or finding a very good therapist who can help you to come up with coping methods that work or a new plan that you have. Make your non-work time count. Finally, one of the most fun and effective ways to leave job tension on the job is to truly fixate on making the rest of your life something deserving of your attention and engaging enough to take your mind off of tension if you really need it to. This means creating enough balance in your life to include free time and hobbies. It means cultivating healthy relationships to help you feel satisfied and take your mind off of stress. It means creating healthy routines to alleviate stress, as well as setting goals that excite you and going for them. Or at times, it can just mean taking pleasure in the present moment, whatever you do. Chapter 7. Fitting it into your busy schedule. At times, the largest obstacle in learning a new ability or practice like meditation is learning how to fit it into your routine. Most everybody has those days when it is a feat to even have showered, not to mention setting time aside to sit quietly and meditate. Here, you're going to learn how to fit your meditation practice into your busy day, perhaps when you really need it the most. Give the skills laid out below a try for 1 week. Consider it a 1-week experiment in learning how to take what you've learned into the real world. Make a dedication to follow these basic steps every day of the week. What you will do. A really good meditation practice does not end when the timer goes off. Too often, once a meditation session stops, it might only take moments before you get caught up in the tensions and routines of the day, and a lot of the benefits of having actually had meditated are eliminated. Meditation needs to not be seen as a momentary break, but rather a transformative process that enriches your life and the lives around you. Today, we will work on bringing meditation off the cushion and into the rest of your life. How it works. By including brief reminders or mini practices into your day, you can maintain some of the benefits of meditation all day. By utilizing a few simple strategies to attain a quick meditative state, you'll be able to work your meditation practice into your daily activities to achieve lasting calm and focus. Get motivated for the week. With these practices, you will be able to evoke a meditative state, nevertheless brief, anytime you really need some calm or creative skill in your life. Doing meditations in a range of environments will help you stay focused and in control of your mind. You won't be as affected by impulsive feelings, and you will have the ability to focus more on what you wish to do. The steps to practice meditation every day. Below are 6 methods for working meditation and the mindfulness that comes with it into your everyday life. Try at least one of these every day this week to find what works best for you. Chore meditation. Any repeated task can be turned into a meditation just by including a focusing element. You can count your breaths while cleaning counters, folding laundry, or washing windows, for instance. Any kind of chore that is automatic in nature and doesn't require decision-making while you are doing it works well. Take a minute for mindfulness. Walking meditation. While taking a walk, link your breathing with your steps. A conventional walking meditation practice, made popular by Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh, is to take a step with each breath. This slow walking meditation practice can be really effective. If you don't have the time or place for slow walking, then just breathe with every 2 or 3 steps while walking down the hall, across a parking area, or in a shop. Workout meditation. Turn exercise into meditation by focusing your mental energy on your body. Picture the push and pull of your muscles. Feel how your body gracefully gets used to your movements. Be amazed at your balance. Even better, try an exercise program that is rooted in breath and mindfulness, like Tai Chi or yoga. 2 breaths. Taking 2 basic, conscious breaths can engage your meditative state at any point in the day. Take 2 breaths before making a telephone call. responding to an email, or beginning your vehicle. This is a great way to bring meditation into your day dozens of times, particularly in the middle of a busy or demanding day when you really need it the most. Sound cue. Choose a particular sound and take 2 breaths each time you hear it. Generally, monks would do this when they heard the wind chimes and the bells of the temple. Choose a sound that takes place frequently in your setting. You could take a 5-second pause in your thinking whenever you hear another person's mobile phone, for example. Transitions. Shifts are times when you move from one setting to another. Getting home from work, for example, is a transition from your professional self to your personal self. Entering into some meetings, you might transition into a completely different personal style in order to get something done. Lunchtime might be a transition for you as well. Generally, monks would pause whenever they crossed a limit and transitioned from one room to another. Pick several shifts in your life, like getting into your automobile, walking into your workplace and opening your front door, and take a 5-second meditative time out before going into the new setting. Perhaps you are going to even make opening a particular computer system program or checking your email a transition. Your meditation commitment today. This week, I'll try at the very least one of these quick meditation practices every day. Tips. Do not be tempted to replace these practices for your day-to-day meditation. You must maintain your everyday practice of sitting and focusing. That habit will allow you to use these practices effectively. You develop your meditation muscles by sitting and focusing. Those new applications are about using that new strength in your life for an additional boost. In the beginning, try to pick practices that you can do when you are alone. It is tough to take 2 conscious breaths while speaking to a person, or perhaps when you are in a scenario where others can watch you. Your automobile is a great place for a bit of personal privacy. While you are working on your computer system or doing laundry are also great times for these meditation moments. Look at an anatomy book and admire the body. As you go through your day, you can do an exercise meditation that concentrates on whatever your body is doing. You could simply be walking, typing, or going up the stairs. Picture how the muscles and nerves work. Respect your own body. If you want to do more, try developing a mindfulness practice. In mindfulness, the idea is to be familiar with whatever you are doing. The opposite of mindfulness is an automatic action. Pick something you do usually during the day, like opening a door. Can you understand yourself unlocking each time? Are you truly present as you open up the door? Are you knowledgeable about your hand on the door opening, your body crossing through, and the door closing behind you? Or is it an automated process without awareness? Develop your mindfulness abilities by picking something that you do usually and trying to be knowledgeable about yourself doing it each time. It's a lot harder than it sounds, and it takes practice. This has been Mindfulness. Prevent worrying and anxiety with mindful thinking. Written by Erica Showdown. Narrated by Sarah Margrave. Mindfulness. Reduce anxiety by being more present in the moment. Written by Erica Showdown. Narrated by Sarah Margrave. Chapter 1. Easy ways to be more present in the moment. Waking mindfully. What is your routine when you wake up? Do you hit the alarm clock and jump out of bed? Do you press the snooze button for 30 minutes? Waking is a fundamental part of the day. You wouldn't have much of a day without it. Honor this time with a refreshing mindfulness practice that feels right for you. For instance, when you're waking up, you might take several minutes to see your breath. Take some slow and deep breaths and see your senses beginning to engage. Your sense of smell, your eyes adapting to the morning light, the feeling of your body against the sheets, and the morning sounds of the world waking with you. And once you have experienced those experiences, you might add some light stretches or wrist rolls and see the energy starting to flow. Perhaps you're not an early morning person, so this is a great way to alleviate into it. Showering mindfully. Is the next step to get into the shower? Is this normally when you really begin to get up, or do you stand there in zombie mode until the first cup of coffee? The shower is just one of my favorite times to practice mindfulness, simply because you can truly fixate on your body while the water drowns out the sound of the world outside. As a matter of fact, the water alone can be your call to mindfulness. Notice the feelings that the water offers. Notice the temperature level become different from when the water first hits your skin to when it rolls off your feet and cools on the floor of the shower. Is your shower a mild spray or a strong jet? Notice its pressure on your skin and pay more attention to single drops. Can you follow a drop of water down the length of your body without taking a look at it? Then, what does your shower smell like? Eating with mindfulness. Are you ready for breakfast? Can you remember what you had for breakfast yesterday morning? Better yet, do you remember chewing or remember what it tasted like? Sometimes we are on autopilot when we eat, especially in the early morning. Next time, no gobbling down that bagel without truly tasting it. At your first meal, remember the senses that you jump-started in the shower. Experience them again in different ways. An egg yolk isn't just an egg yolk. It has color variations, it has an almost invisible skin, and it behaves in different ways when you touch it, depending upon how it was cooked. As for chewing and tasting, that can be a whole practice in itself. Mindfulness instructor Jon Kabat-Zinn is well known for introducing clients to the raisin awareness meditation. Whether it's a raisin or a piece of toast, we can gradually experience all elements of appreciating our food. There are many tastes and textures that go unnoticed when we eat mindlessly. What does the toast feel like between your fingers? Smell it. Notice the tiny holes and grains in the surface area. Take a tiny bite and see how it brushes against your tongue, crunches under your teeth, disintegrates and dissolves, and slides down your throat. It may take you 30 minutes just to eat that piece of toast. The point is to slow down and stay present with your food, to not take the food or the experience of eating food for granted. Driving mindfully. When we drive mindfully, creepy things can happen, the least of which might be slamming on the brakes in the nick of time. It is just so easy to get lost in the thoughts of our day's obligation or concern ourselves with the lives of the drivers around us. What a jerk! When we're completely present in our vehicle, eyes on the road and minds on the drive, we are much more secure and calmer drivers. As long as that other guy is driving safely, we don't need to concern ourselves with his service. We can avoid decal and signboards because we know they do not matter. We aren't speeding, we aren't digging our fingernails into the steering wheel, and our blood is not boiling with road rage. We are letting all of that go by breathing deeply, staying present, and accepting that the outside world is beyond our control. Did he just cut you off? Well, that moment has already passed. You can't go back and prevent it, and you will not be teaching her a lesson by getting mad. Granted, this takes some practice. However, if you're a disappointed driver, you will have plenty of chances to do so. Now you're ready for the red light meditation challenge. Let's say you bring up to a traffic signal that lasts 1 minute. That is 1 minute you can fill with deep breathing and awareness. Next time, consider it your 60-second timer. Red light begins the timer, and green light stops it. Kind of like a power nap. This is your power meditation method. Just be present with your surroundings without judging them. And if you do get sidetracked, which you will, carefully bring yourself back to the moment. Keep practicing. Release that frustration. You don't have any control over other motorists, but you have full control of how you'll react or not react to them. Your thoughts do not own you, and you are not your thoughts. This exercise was adjusted by my former professor, Tom Holmes, at Western Michigan University, from a story once told by Zen Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. Always one to add an amusing spin on a story, Dr. Holmes concluded the exercise by telling students, if you close your eyes for too long while stopped at the red light and lose track of time, do not worry. The individual behind you will definitely let you know when the light has turned green. Just breathe. Desk meditation. Are you a person who takes power naps on your work break? Does that allow you any time to quickly eat lunch? Rather than a nap, how about practicing a brief but restful mindfulness meditation? A paradox of mindfulness meditation is that it can be both relaxing and stimulating at the same time. When it is break time, take 5 minutes to quiet your mind. This is now your time and you deserve to enjoy it. If you need to set some limits with coworkers and kindly tell them to scram, then I prompt you to practice that as well. Close the office door, sit conveniently upright with your feet planted on the floor, and rest your hands on your lap. Take some deep and soothing breaths. Focus on the experience of the air coming into your nostrils and flowing deeply into your lungs. Do not worry about breathing appropriately. Just breathe easily. Upon exhaling, breathe out through your mouth, seeing the air breeze by your lips. Notice any stress in your body, maybe rolling your shoulders and breathing into that stress. Your feet are grounded on the floor. Your lungs are full of fresh air and your mind is clear of stress for this moment. End of the day. Now you can do the same practices in reverse after work. You can drive back home mindfully, eat supper mindfully, and perhaps you even shower or wash up before becoming into night clothes. So, how will you honor the day and set your objective for a peaceful sleep, free from thoughts about what you did not get completed today or what you have on your plate for tomorrow? Have you ever heard about loving kindness? It is a whole idea unto itself, and it incorporates a terrific meditation practice. I'd suggest books by Pema Chödrön or Sharon Salzberg to find out more. Here's a basic loving-kindness style meditation. While lying in bed, before dozing off, just be mindful of the people in your life. Start with yourself and just give yourself a loving acknowledgement and appreciation. A basic message wanting yourself health and happiness. Next, do the exact same for someone who is closest to you. This may be the partner lying next to you, or a close relative. Think a kind thought of appreciation for what they mean to you and wish them peace and joy. Repeat this action again, this time for someone who you experience throughout your day but perhaps aren't as near to. Think of a colleague or associate. Last but not least, try sending out a genuine want wellness and joy to someone who you aren't near. Maybe this is someone with whom you had a dispute or someone who annoyed you today. Desire them well and unburden yourself of negative energy before sleeping. Then, breathe easily, slowly, and deeply before dozing off. This loving-kindness exercise includes more intentional thought and structure than the other mindfulness practices, but it is still one in which you are present in the moment, familiar with your reactions, and suspending your judgments. It is a clearing practice that produces a peace, openness, and stillness as you get ready to sleep. Chapter 2: Mindfulness through Music. We can look at mindfulness and music from two directions: the practice of mindfulness meditation to enhance musicianship, and the practice of music to enhance mindfulness. Musical artists can cultivate insight and influence change in both practice and efficiency through the study of mindfulness meditation. Meditators can use music to improve their experience of mindfulness. In this way, the two aspects are harmonious and are complementary practices. Mindfulness for musicians. Mindfulness can improve our experience of being music artists. This is the application of mindful meditation towards the peak practice and performance of music. The most common issues that music artists encounter include efficiency anxiety, imposter complex, and what Abraham Maslow referred to as the Jonah complex, the fear of success. Through instruction, daily meditative practice, and weekly discussions with a teacher, one can acquire insight and initiate positive change in their practice and performance of music. Music to boost mindfulness. The second direction that we can take in mindfulness in music is the improvement of our mindful experience of daily life through music. We usually utilize exercises in listening and free improvisation to find spontaneous, active, and intentional styles of living and making music. Through everyday practice in listening and playing, one can cultivate a more spontaneous, purposeful, and meaningful way of being in the world. It has been my experience that a reliable way toward comprehending something is to do it. Therefore, I'll offer two exercises in mindfulness and music, one for musical artists who wish to check out and boost their craft, and the other for meditators who wish to integrate music into their meditative practice. Mindfulness for musical practice. The initial step in becoming more conscious of a person's craft is to silence the mind. In Buddhist theories, the illustration is often used of enabling muddy water to settle to the bottom so that one can see obviously through the water. This analogy helps us to comprehend how action typically interferes with acquiring insight. Just as the dirt in the water cannot be cleared by doing something, the act of attempting to clear the dirt keeps it from settling and clearing. One can't begin to see their circumstance plainly if one is trying. This counterintuitive way to clearness is called non-action. Non-action is a resolve to do nothing, to enable the dust to settle, whereas our impulse is to reactively do something to change the situation that we are experiencing, be that anxiety, feelings of insecurity, or fear. The approach of non-action is to just sit, allowing the dust to settle. The instructor, Alan Watts, would typically say, "Don't just do something, sit there." The initial step to a mindful awareness of our circumstance is to enable the clarity to occur through non-action. For the next week, take 10 minutes each day to sit quietly and accept the difficulty that you are facing. This is the beginning of the process, to embrace the very thing with which we are having a hard time. Embracing the sign indicates accepting that we have something to learn a lot from our suffering, and that anxiety, doubt, or fear is a message from our bodies that we can listen to and learn much from. We start this process by accepting and doing nothing. Musical practice for mindfulness. The next exercise aims to use music as means toward a more extensive and more mindful sense of self. This exercise does not require you to have any musical capabilities or any level of efficiency on an instrument. The guiding concept that is typically heard in meaningful arts treatment is low strategy, high expression. The principle will serve the beginner well in using music as a way toward mindfulness. Choose an instrument. Pawn shops and categorized listings offer instruments that are typically lightly used at really sensible costs. You might choose an instrument that you have always delighted in listening to, like the flute or cello. Potentially, you have always had an interest about the piano or the slide trombone. Maybe drums or singing has always felt like part of your personality. You could even make an instrument from found items. Whatever the reason could be, choose an instrument that you feel a personal connection with or an interest in. Begin by making noises on the instrument. As you make sounds for the first time, focus your attention on the character of the tone itself. We call this the tone or color of the tone. Is the tone smooth or extreme? Is it dark or bright sounding? Explore playing softly and loudly. Be aware of the contrast that you are making with pitch, high, medium, and low notes. Focus on listening for the moment at which the note begins and ends, the limits between sound and silence. The exercise of just playing will bring you into contact with the noises that you are making now. Resist the tendency to judge yourself or to picture what others may think. Do not judge, but simply observe. Know the fundamental feeling tone that you encounter while playing. Do you feel positive, neutral, or negative? Spend time every day playing tones as part of your mindfulness practice. Conscious meditation can be effective in helping us to become more authentic musical artists. Music making can help us to become more conscious in our experience of ourselves. Mindfulness and music are mutual and unified activities that can enhance someone's experience. Chapter 3. Identifying Mindfulness Narcissistic. Mindfulness is normally conceived as a particular quality of awareness, and mindfulness meditation as a technique to train the mind to reach this state of awareness. It's a state in which we focus using all of our senses while preserving a non-reactive and steady presence, or, according to more current meanings, a state defined by focusing in a curious, open, unbiased, non-judgmental, thoughtful, or accepting way. The next question that we have to answer is whether mindfulness is more than another health-related or personal improvement item. Mindfulness as a product. To understand what it means to view mindfulness as a product, let us look at an example from Dr. Plant's post. His example refers to companies that suggest meditation in response to employees complaining about job-related problems. The message behind these suggestions, he says, is, if you're not happy, practice meditation, but do not complain. Undoubtedly, such messages appear to view grievances not as lawful complaints, but as signs of mismanaged tension. In such a context, mindfulness meditation is an item to be used for a certain purpose, reducing work-related tension or stress from other sources that may impact work behavior. However, what if using mindfulness, the product, resulted in something the owner of the company didn't expect? What if it increased consciousness of the unfair treatment at work, and therefore resulted in much more complaints. Would the owner be validated in concluding that mindfulness is pointless? Obviously, the uses of mindfulness the product are not limited to reducing work grievances. There are people who have prompted mindfulness as a way to become, say, more relaxed, positive, happy, and healthy. To conquer anxiety, stress and depressive thoughts, and many other mental health issues. To study more effectively. To make more money. To have a better sex life, and so on. Keep in mind that seldom do well-known books on mindfulness promote the usage of mindfulness the product for purposes related straight to benefiting others. And this brings me to the question of narcissism and mindfulness. Is mindfulness narcissistic then? Many writers, both professional and ordinary people, have suggested that mindfulness is narcissistic. In his discussion of the link between mindfulness and narcissism, Dr. Plant recalls the time that he was asked to read a text written by a researcher and mindfulness supporter, and his surprise that the manuscript only concentrated on self-help and not on helping others. To give further proof for the narcissistic nature of mindfulness, he notes that many mindfulness gurus ask for massive costs and perks, have glamorous pictures of themselves to promote their work, and only offer training at classy and costly hotels, retreat centers, and day spas. So, with this evidence, are we to conclude that mindfulness encourages us to end up being more self-preoccupied, self-indulgent, and self-obsessed? Perhaps. The common way mindfulness has been packaged and promoted in Western countries makes it easy for us to use mindfulness, yet another personal improvement product and another form of self-preoccupation. As we will see below, the self-help mindfulness we have been encouraged to practice is, to a great extent, decontextualized from its tradition, values, faith, culture, and history. The origins of mindfulness. The Buddhist writings, the principle of mindfulness can be found in some spots, but especially in the Eightfold Course to Freedom from Suffering. These 8 courses are at times grouped into the following 3 classifications, with right mindfulness placed in the meditation classification. Wisdom, right view, right intention. Ethical conduct, right speech, right conduct, right income. Meditation, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. These 8 principles interact and can be considered different dimensions of the same course. What does it mean to view mindfulness only as a non-judgmental consciousness of the here and now? Doing so is a secularization of one interpretation of the traditional principle of sati, i.e., mindfulness. This contemporary definition, limitations, or asseverates bare consciousness from related practices generally connected to mindfulness as the guarantor of correct practice of all the other course elements. Simply put, the mindfulness we typically practice is no longer related to the Buddhist worldview and its principles. With knowledge and morals, with purposeful action based upon right judgment. The popular form of mindfulness we do practice is one that doesn't threaten our religious values and traditions, or absence of them, nor challenges our culture's focus on personal freedom, individualism, competition, consumption, narcissism, etc. Naturally, authors who emphasize Buddhist ethics or encourage mindfulness practice for the purpose of benefiting others are at times implicated of having a hidden agenda and pushing ethical or spiritual values. In other words, if we conceptualize mindfulness meditation as a kind of scientific treatment or non-religious self-help practice, that is, for better health, more joy, greater success, then we should not be shocked when people use it generally for that purpose. Concluding thoughts. If you really believe mindfulness is an ineffective treatment and an overhyped item, failing to provide on promises of health, joy, and success, Or if you believe it promotes narcissism, then spend a little time learning more about mindfulness in the setting of Buddhism. Research, study the Eightfold Path, the 5 Precepts, the 4 Noble Realities, the 3 Toxins, etc. You will notice that mindfulness does not exist in a vacuum. The Buddhist mindfulness practice is a part of a bigger whole. Mindfulness meditation is more than the same as a tablet or a mind technique to help us attain established objectives shaped by our worldviews or desires. It is a piece of a worldview that has much to say relating to the purpose and meaning of life, mortality, truth, etc. So, get a sense for that broad view before denouncing mindfulness as worthless and even championing it as a panacea. Chapter 4. The definition of mindfulness. Mindfulness is a state of active, open attention to the present. That state is described as observing an individual's thoughts and emotions without judging them as good or bad. Understanding mindfulness. To live mindfully is to live in the moment and reawaken oneself to the present, instead of dwelling on the past or preparing for the future. To be conscious is to observe and identify thoughts, emotions, experiences in the body in an objective manner. Mindfulness can, because of that, be a tool to keep away from self-criticism and judgment, while identifying and managing hard feelings. Mindfulness is rooted in Buddhist and Hindu teachings. Buddhism includes a journey towards enlightenment and the principle of sati, which encompasses attention, awareness, and being present. Is considered the first step to knowledge. The term was approximately translated from the age-old language Pali into the term mindfulness. The introduction of mindfulness in Western culture can be credited to John Kabat-Zinn. Kabat-Zinn studied mindfulness under some Buddhist teachers like Philip Kapleau and Thich Nhat Hanh. As a teacher at the University of Massachusetts Medical School in the late 1970s, Kabat-Zinn developed a program called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, MBSR, to deal with persistent pain. He discovered that patients would usually try to stay away from the pain, but that avoidance would result in deeper distress. Practicing mindfulness was a more effective method. As mindfulness moved into mainstream science and medicine, it became a critical therapeutic technique. It was incorporated into mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, dialectical behavior treatment, and acceptance and dedication therapy, among others. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness incorporates 2 key active ingredients: awareness and acceptance. Awareness is the knowledge and capability to focus attention on an individual's inner procedures and experiences, such as the experience of the present moment. Acceptance is the ability to observe and accept, instead of judge or stay away from, those streams of thought. What is the purpose of mindfulness? The goal of mindfulness is to cultivate perspective on someone's awareness and identity that can bring greater peace psychologically and relationally. Mindfulness might also be used in mindfulness-based treatments to address stress, anxiety, or pain, and simply to become more relaxed. What is the history of mindfulness? Mindfulness has its origins in Buddhist and Hindu teachings, from which the principle sati was approximately translated to mindfulness. The practice was popularized in the West through the work of John Kabat-Zinn. Zinn created mindfulness-based tension decrease to treat pain, anxiety, and tension, and he eventually brought mindfulness into traditional medical practice. What's the difference between mindfulness and flow? Flow is a state in which one is completely absorbed in an activity and loses self-awareness. Circulation and mindfulness both involve deep concentration, but only flow involves goal-directed conduct. While mindfulness channels concentration totally towards the present moment, flow channels concentration towards abilities and goal accomplishment, which may include thoughts of the past and future and judgment of these thoughts. What's the difference between mindfulness and meditation? Mindfulness is one form of meditation. Meditation utilizes numerous practices to quiet the mind or attain a greater level of consciousness, one of which is mindfulness. Mindfulness can be refined within or outside of formal meditation and woven into any activity, like walking or talking. Practicing mindfulness. An individual's experience of time tends to be subjective and greatly influenced by their emotional state. Fears and insecurities about the past and the future can make it hard to totally appreciate the present. The key is learning how to focus. Mindfulness can happen through meditation sessions or little moments throughout the day. To cultivate a state of mindfulness, you can start by sitting down and taking deep breaths. Focus on each breath and the sensations of the moment, such as sounds, fragrances, the temperature, and the feeling of air breathing in and out of the body. Shift your attention then to the thoughts and feelings that you're experiencing. Allow each thought to exist without judging it or ascribing negativity to it. Sit with those thoughts. The experience could evoke a strong emotional response. Checking out that reaction can be a chance to deal with or resolve underlying obstacles. How do I practice mindfulness? To cultivate awareness, observe your thoughts and emotions and check out why those specific ideas may be appearing. To cultivate approval, avoid judging or pushing away unpleasant thoughts. Feelings are natural and everyone has them. Acknowledging them can help you comprehend yourself better and progress. How can I be more conscious? Mindfulness can definitely help take you into the present moment throughout the day. As you wake up, you can fixate on your breathing and the way your body slowly becomes more stimulated. You can integrate a quick meditation into your workday, maybe on your lunch break, and focus and appreciate the experience of eating during meals. Why is mindfulness so popular? Mindfulness has been embraced by corporate leaders, sports teams, the army, and numerous individuals everywhere. The practice might owe its appeal to today's fast-paced, technology-driven world, swarming with monetary and time pressures. Mindfulness could represent an unmet need for moments of silence, contemplation, and calm. The advantages of mindfulness. Mindfulness is frequently used in meditation and certain sorts of treatment. Its benefits include lowering tension levels, lowering hazardous ruminating, and safeguarding against depression and anxiety. Research even suggests that mindfulness can help people better cope with rejection and social isolation. Does mindfulness actually work? Review studies suggest that mindfulness-based interventions can help in reducing anxiety, depression, and pain. To a lesser level, they can minimize stress and improve quality of life. However, disparities in the way mindfulness is specified and gauged make it challenging to figure out whether mindfulness really provides other benefits. How does mindfulness help eliminate anxiety? Mindfulness incorporates awareness and acceptance, which can help people comprehend and manage awkward feelings, enabling them to gain control and relief. To cultivate these skills, focus on breathing to lengthen and deepen your breaths. Foster a consciousness of the five senses. Notice your thoughts and feelings and practice curiosity and self-compassion. Can mindfulness help me break bad habits? Mindfulness can contribute in helping people break practices such as smoking or binge eating. When a routine has developed, The trigger, hunger, prompts a conduct, eating, that leads to a reward, fulfillment. Becoming mindful of the conduct and what is stemmed from it can help change the benefit and change it with a healthier behavior. Can mindfulness help my relationship? Higher levels of mindfulness forecast happier and more rewarding relationships, research suggests. It is difficult to disentangle whether mindfulness directly caused those enhancements, but mindfulness does benefit key relationship abilities, such as existing and attentive, managing feelings, being self-aware, and cultivating empathy and empathy. Chapter 5: How Mindfulness Improves Your Brain and Relationships. Mindfulness is the process of focusing, in an open, non-judgmental way, to your experience in the present moment. Dr. Daniel J. Siegel specifies mindfulness as the process of developing an awareness of the present moment that's filled with interest, openness, approval, and love to our ongoing experience. Mindfulness training workouts include deliberately focusing on the breath as an anchor for your attention, preserving an open awareness of whatever thoughts and feelings spontaneously appear in your mind and body, and deliberately directing kind and compassionate feelings towards self and others. In this chapter, you will read about how mindfulness practice changes your brain to give you more cognitive versatility, better control over attention, emotions and impulses, relief for tension and anxiety, and greater brain integration and connectivity. How does mindfulness work in your brain? Dr. Siegel defines the working of mindfulness in the brain as follows: seeing the differences between sense and story, between primary experience-dependent bottom-up input and the secondary top-down chatter of previous learning becomes a basic tool of the mindfulness method. Once this seeing of the contents of the mind, is readily available through intentional practice, the capacity to alter regular patterns is created, and the possibility becomes available for relief for self-preoccupied rumination, self-defeating thought patterns, negative autobiographical narratives, and maladaptive patterns of psychological reactivity. Simply put, when we can make a distinction between our direct, in-the-moment experience and our judgments and analysis of those psychological and bodily states, we can break the cycles of automatic reactivity and undo the grip of negative stories and rigid beliefs about ourselves based on past negative experiences. When we can identify our negative self-beliefs as only a story, then we have the potential to disengage from the inner critic and end up being more self-compassionate. If, in the midst of a fight with your partner, you can label your bad thoughts and hurt feelings as just my rejection script, or if you can notice your blood pressure rising and your face getting redder, then you have a higher degree of choice about how to behave. Instead of feeling obligated to shout and attack or strongly protect your position, you can instead choose to take a break, connect with your love for your partner, or try to comprehend his or her perspective. Consequently, you should have reduced stress and more loving, connected relationships. What are the advantages of mindfulness? Research in the past decade has found several advantages of mindfulness, including, but not limited to, improvements in immune function, reductions in stress and anxiety, increases in empathy, and improvement in relationship fulfillment. A current statistical evaluation which pooled information from 16 studies showed that mindfulness has moderate impacts on at least 8 different brain areas involved in brain incorporation and connectivity, sense of self, impulse control, and control of attention and emotion. What areas of the brain does mindfulness influence? One of the prime parts affected by mindfulness is the anterior cingulate cortex, ACC, a part of the brain connected with self-perception, regulation of attention, emotions and impulses, and cognitive flexibility, or the ability to change problem-solving strategies when you're not getting the results you want. The ACC helps you to adapt and learn much from experience, rather than getting stuck in fixed views of yourself and running on autopilot. When you are faced with uncertainty and a quickly changing world, the ACC is particularly essential. A second brain region impacted by mindfulness is the hippocampus. In a 2011 research study, individuals in a mindfulness program had increased gray matter in this area, compared to control subjects. Gray matter contains most of the brain's neuronal cell bodies. The hippocampus is the midpoint for making more memories. Without a working hippocampus, you can't live in the present and will be stuck in the old memories of the past. Truth be told, the hippocampus is tinier in clients with trauma and extreme depression. The hippocampus helps you to be more resilient and change with new experiences. It has many receptors for cortisol, the tension hormone, and can be harmed by too much stress. A third area that mindfulness influences is the corpus callosum, which links the right and left hemispheres of the brain. The right hemisphere is related to more holistic, psychological, nonverbal processing, though the left hemisphere is direct, actual, and rational, and involved in verbal processing. Some researchers really believe that the left hemisphere is a center for positive feeling, while the right is related to negative emotion. The corpus callosum is thicker in knowledgeable meditators, suggesting greater connectivity and capability to put your psychological and physical experiences into words and connect emotions to events in a sensible way. If you're not convinced by now that learning and practicing mindfulness is a really good idea, I'm going to leave you with the words of Harvard neuroscience scientist writing for the Harvard Company Review. Mindfulness must no longer be considered a nice-to-have for executives. It is an essential, a way to keep our brains healthy, to support self-regulation and reliable decision-making abilities, and to secure ourselves from hazardous tension. Chapter 6: Mindfulness-Based Cognitive Therapy. Mindfulness-Based Cognitive Therapy, MBCT, is a modified form of cognitive therapy that includes mindfulness practices such as meditation and breathing exercises. Using these tools, MBCT therapists teach clients how to break away from negative idea patterns that can cause a downward spiral into a depressed state, so they will be able to fight off depression before it takes hold. When it is used. MBCT was developed for those with recurring episodes of depression or misery to stop regression. It has been proven effective in patients with significant depressive disorder who have experienced at the very least 3 episodes of depression. Mindfulness-based regression avoidance could also be helpful for treating generalized anxiety conditions and addictions. MBCT has also been revealed to enhance signs of depression in some people with physical health conditions, like vascular disease and terrible brain injury. What to expect? MBCT is group therapy with once-a-week 2-hour sessions led by your therapist as part of an 8-week program. You'll learn meditation strategies and also basic concepts of cognition, such as the relationship between the way you think and how you feel. You'll also have the chance to find out more about your depressive condition. On the days when there's no session, there is homework, which includes practicing breathing workouts and mindful meditation. How it functions. In some cases, typical unhappiness is an effective trigger for somebody who has recovered from a depressive state to relapse into another bout of depression. Rather than try to avoid or remove sadness or other negative emotions, one learns to change their relationship with these emotions by practicing meditation and other mindfulness exercises. These activities rebalance neural networks, enabling the client to move from automated negative responses towards an understanding that there are other ways to react to circumstances. By developing a routine meditation practice, clients can use the technique when they start to feel overwhelmed by negative emotions. When sadness occurs and begins to bring up the usual negative association that set off relapse of depression, the client is geared up with tools that will help them replace negative thought patterns with positive. What to look for in an MBCT therapist. An MBCT therapist is a psychological health specialist who has added training in mindfulness-based practices and techniques and is competent at teaching these strategies to others. Organizations like the UC San Diego Center for Mindfulness trains and accredits MBCT teachers around the United States. There is no official recommendation service for MBCT programs or therapists. Other than checking qualifications, it is necessary to find an MBCT therapist with whom you feel comfortable working. Chapter 7. How does mindfulness help with depression and anxiety? Antidepressants: the good and the bad. The history of antidepressant response ended up being clearer with the STAR-D study starting in 2006. It revealed that up to 50% of individuals receiving antidepressants accomplished remission after 24 weeks of 2 medication trials. Unfortunately, that left 50% who had not. We wanted to improve on that number and help the ones who were still suffering, regardless of 2 or more medication trials. To react to this problem, I led the Practicing Alternatives to Recover Anxiety research study sponsored by the National Institutes of Health. We found that mindfulness had effective impacts in lowering depression and anxiety. It also helped increase self-compassion while minimizing ruminations. Ruminations are endless loops of thoughts that increase depression while not helping to find options to bothersome circumstances. Mindfulness as a beneficial method for mood regulation. Mindfulness at its core is understanding your experiences as you are experiencing them and suspending judgment about them. Those include feelings, thoughts, and emotions. Mindfulness meditation can be thought of as shining the spotlight of attention on a certain focus that you pick in the present moment. This spotlight can be as broad or narrow as you like. Typically, mindfulness can be thought about in 2 ways. In one, the discrete form, you practice focusing your attention for a specific amount of time, say a meditation where you fixate on your breath for 10 minutes. When your mind wanders, you see the wandering and bring the attention back to the breath. In the other form of mindfulness, it can be called dispositional mindfulness, where you bring mindful consciousness to your daily life. For example, you notice the feelings in your feet as you walk down the street. In both forms of mindfulness, you are focusing your consciousness, but the settings vary. Mindfulness systems and depression. Depression and anxiety can be considered disorders of time. In depression, you are focused on the past. You feel as though a loss has already occurred, like a lost loved one, relationship, job, or valued thing. With anxiety, you feel as though a loss is going to occur in the future. A catastrophe is looming. Mindfulness has effective antidepressant and anti-anxiety effects because its focus is on the present moment. When you concentrate on the present moment, you release the past and the future. If you are focused on your body experiences, then you are not concentrating on the past or future. Mindfulness meditation doesn't need a big-time dedication. If you can breathe, you can be conscious. Mindfulness is a skill like others. When you start learning how to build your muscles, you start with small weights and gradually increase them. The same method applies to mindfulness. You start with brief meditations and then learn to vary the types of meditations that you do. Most people find that brief meditations, say 5 to 10 minutes a day, are easiest to do, while other individuals prefer a 30-minute meditation. There is no proof that a particular amount of time is needed to learn mindfulness abilities. Rather, it is essential for you to develop your own routine, ideally daily, the practice of what works for you. This has been Mindfulness. Reduce anxiety by being more present in the moment. Written by Erica Showdown. Narrated by Sarah Margrave. Mindfulness. How to practice mindfulness, meditation, and breathing techniques. Written by Erica Showdown. Narrated by Sarah Margrave. Table of Contents. Chapter 1. If mindfulness is this popular, why is everybody so mindless? Chapter 2. The neuroscience of mindfulness meditation and pain relief. Chapter 3. Breathing techniques. Chapter 4. How to be more mindful. Chapter 5. Beneficial tips for improving your psychological focus. Chapter 1. If mindfulness is this popular, why is everybody so mindless? On the surface, mindfulness practice appears tailor-made for increasing well-being of its adopters. Bring into play centuries-old Buddhist and Vedantic routines. It refers to a set of activities and workouts performed to focus a person's mind on experiencing the present, one moment at a time. Mindfulness workouts usually include meditation in some form. The professional concentrates on a single principle continuously for a period ranging from a few minutes to hours. An example would be the following. The person could just monitor his or her own breathing or count breaths, paying very close attention to each cycle of inhalation and exhalation, or listen to a soothing sound or recite a chant consistently. Research studies, now numbering in the thousands, have associated mindfulness practice with numerous health benefits, from long-lasting reductions in anxiety, stress and depressions, the management of pain, controlling anger, suppressing dependencies, empathy, and psychological well-being. If mindfulness practice is so popular, why is everybody behaving mindlessly? Looking at numbers alone, there's little doubt that mindfulness practice has blown up in popularity, entering the mainstream of American consciousness, no pun intended. According to the 2012 National Health Interview Survey covering over 43,000 families, 8%, or close to 18 million of Americans, meditated on a regular basis. It is particularly popular in organizational settings. Essentially every significant Silicon Valley firm, whether it's Google, Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn, now offers mindfulness training as a perk for its staff members. Even hard-nosed banks like Goldman Sachs have gotten on board the mindfulness bandwagon. What is more, the mindfulness programs have percolated into American jails, the military, and become part of curricula in numerous schools and universities throughout the nation. However, in spite of being practiced by so many people in so many different settings, it is hard to find any evidence that mindfulness has produced advantages that can be measured at the societal level. Rather, the signs all point to growing levels of mindlessness in society. In particular, in parallel with the development of mindfulness programs and their adoption by millions, people seem to behave more mindlessly in more ways than they have ever done. Here are just certain examples of this perplexing, escalating mindlessness phenomenon. More than 3,000 people were killed and near to 500,000 people were injured in accidents caused by sidetracked motorists in 2014 alone. Research studies suggest that fatalities due to distracted drivers are growing up, leading the authors of one study to conclude that sidetracked drivers are the reason for an increasing share of casualties that has been seen amongst many pedestrians and bike riders. Obviously, mindfulness does not appear to have made much of an impact on drivers. The average attention period of people has dropped from 12 seconds in 2000 to 8 seconds in 2015. This research study was done with a Canadian sample. When media reported this study last year, their headline said, "You now have a much shorter attention span than a goldfish." And goldfish aren't precisely conscious beings. A compulsion to constantly check the smartphone is a pernicious issue. Some observers have called smartphone dependency a plague. One recent research study, which was led by British psychologist Sally Andrews, learned that most people check their smart devices approximately 85 times a day, spending 5 hours a day using them. Simultaneously, the idea of carrying out a digital fast was praised by many, but carried out by hardly anybody. There is an opioid drug intake epidemic in the United States. The death rate from drug overdoses in 2008 was almost 4 times what it was in 1999. In tandem, sales of prescription painkillers in 2010 were 4 times, and the rate of admission into compound use disorder treatment was 6 times the 1999 values. In 2014, drug overdose was the leading cause of accidental death in the U.S., with 47,055 deadly drug overdoses. Taking drugs indiscriminately seems the really antithesis of mindful behavior. Meaningless eating is another widespread social problem. As researcher Brian Winsink says, the majority of us do not overeat because we're hungry. We overindulge just because of friends and family, packages and plates, names and numbers, labels and lights, colors and candles, shapes and smells, distractions and distances, cabinets and containers. In other words, we eat way too much because we are not focusing. So how is this possible? Thousands of studies find benefits of mindfulness in little controlled settings. Customers are enthusiastically adopting mindfulness practices in droves. However, at the societal level, each trend consistently appears to suggest that people are behaving increasingly more mindlessly, typically at detriment to themselves. It is interesting that the same sort of paradoxical pattern has been true for dieting routines for decades. For example, more than a third of Americans, 108 million, say they're on a dieting program each year. But the number of overweight and obese Americans continues to grow to epidemic proportions. Similar thing is actually true of mindfulness practices. There are a lot of variations to count, from movement meditation practices like Tai Chi or Qigong, to body scan meditation, to Vedic chanting, mountain meditation, and so on. Many mindfulness professionals develop their own variations and claim that theirs is the most efficient method. What is more, many generic practices like Vedic chants or Tai Chi have considerable cultural and historical heft, going back centuries. Yet, for the most part, the extensive lab-based psychological research examining effectiveness of mindfulness practice is limited to brief, one-time inductions lasting some minutes. Very few of the actually practiced variations of mindfulness practice have been tested in an externally valid way in controlled studies. When researchers undertake long-term research studies, the sample sizes of participants are minuscule, or highly self-selected samples of professionals like Theravada Buddhist monks are used. The summary of it all is that we simply don't know if regular Joes like you and me are very capable of practicing meditation well enough and for a long enough duration in a way comparable to professional practitioners like Theravada monks. Nor is there proof, at least that I could find, that massive helpful results of mindfulness take place over extended periods of time in large samples of people. What do we get from this? First and foremost, it is easy to validate that the concept of mindfulness practice is a broadly appealing one, at least at this time. The idea of behaving mindfully isn't only intuitively appealing, but one that gives us a sense of control over our lives. And in today's information-rich environment, with so many choices for everything, the appeal of getting back some control is even greater. Chapter 2: The Neuroscience of Mindfulness Meditation and Pain Relief. More than 100 million Americans are affected by chronic pain, which is the leading reason for disability in the United States. The financial toll of pain is approximated to be $560 to $630 billion every year, between the cost of health expenditures and absenteeism. In 2014, the National Institute of Health, NIH, compiled a report, Pathways to Avoidance: The Role of Opioids in the Treatment of Chronic Pain, to attend to the quiet epidemic triggered by the occurrence of persistent pain and the usage of highly addictive opioids to deal with pain. Ultimately, this report is a call to action for more research to find drug-free alternatives for the treatment of pain. In 1991, doctors wrote 76 million prescriptions for opioids to deal with pain. By 2011, this number had practically tripled to 219 million. Unfortunately, according to the NIH report, 40 to 70% of individuals with persistent pain aren't actually getting the correct medical treatment for their pain. In cases where opioids are necessary, there is concern by professionals about both the over and under pharmacological treatment of chronic pain. An incredible 80% of all opioid prescriptions worldwide are written in the United States. It appears that other nations have found different treatments for persistent pain. What can Americans do to find non-pharmacological treatments for their physical and psychological pain? Mindfulness meditation and non-pharmacological pain management. In recent years, a growing body of proof has found that mindfulness and meditation have the capability to eliminate pain by creating structural and functioning changes in the brain. I have written a broad range of Psychology Today blog posts on this topic. In this post, I've assembled the most recent science-based discoveries in a retrospective analysis of the neuroscience of mindfulness meditation and pain relief. Most recently, researchers at Wake Forest Baptist have found new proof that mindfulness meditation minimizes pain more efficiently than placebos by activating two specific brain regions related to self-control and shutting down the thalamus. The November 2015 research study reports that mindfulness meditation surpasses a placebo in pain reduction. The report was released in the Journal of Neuroscience. These findings are considerable because placebo-controlled trials are necessary to demonstrate the effectiveness of clinical and medicinal pain treatments. The scientists realized that mindfulness meditation reduces pain by triggering the orbitofrontal cortex, OFC, and anterior cingulate cortex. According to the researchers, these brain parts are associated with the self-control of pain. Mindfulness meditation also deactivated the thalamus, which functions as a kind of gateway to identify which sensory information is enabled to reach higher brain centers. In a news release, lead author Fidel Zidon, assistant professor of neurobiology and anatomy at Wake Forest Baptist, described the research study. While we thought that there would be some overlap in brain areas between meditation and placebo, the discoveries from this research study offer novel and unbiased evidence that mindfulness meditation decreases pain in a special fashion. That research study is the first to show that mindfulness meditation is mechanistically unique and produces pain relief above and past the analgesic impacts seen with either placebo cream or sham meditation. These findings support another study from earlier this year, which identified two different brain pathways that contribute to the pain experience and can be self-regulated. The January 2015 Colorado University Boulder study unique brain systems mediate the impacts of nociceptive input and self-regulation on pain, was released in the diary PLOS Biology. Interestingly, a September 2015 study from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign determined that healthy grown-ups who have a bigger orbitofrontal cortex tend to have less anxiety and are more optimistic. The study, Optimism and the Brain, Characteristic Optimism mediates the protective role of the orbitofrontal cortex gray matter volume against anxiety, was published in the diary Social, Cognitive, and Affective Neuroscience. Mind-body practices can help stop and improve persistent pain. Persistent pain sets off changes in brain structure that are connected to depression, anxiety, and impaired cognitive function. Brain imaging research studies have revealed that persistent pain leads to changes in gray matter volume and the stability of white matter connectivity. Gray matter is home to the neurons in specific brain regions, while white matter produces communication lines between your different brain areas. In May 2015, Catherine Bushnell, Ph.D., gave a lecture entitled Influence of Environment on the Long-Term Consequences of Persistent Pain at the American Discomfort Society's yearly meeting in Palm Springs. Bushnell and her colleagues at the NIH are conducting research targeted at discovering non-pharmacological treatments for pain. They've discovered that persistent pain can be stopped or reversed via mind-body practices. After assessing the impact of brain anatomy on pain decrease, Bushnell concluded that gray matter changes in the insula, or internal structures of the cortex, are the most substantial players associated with chronic pain. The scientist used diffusion tensor brain imaging to analyze gray matter volume and the stability of white matter tracts. Bushnell assumes that increased size and connection of the insular cortex is probably the most essential brain factor regarding changes in a person's pain tolerance and limits. Bushnell learned that yoga appears to bulk up gray matter through neurogenesis, the development of new neurons, and strengthens white matter connectivity through neuroplasticity. Insula gray matter size correlates with pain tolerance, and increases in insula gray matter can arise from ongoing yoga practice, Bushnell said in a news release. Yoga practitioners have more gray matter than controls in several brain areas, including, but not limited to, those associated with pain modulation. Other research studies have found that regular physical activity is linked to optimizing gray matter volumes and the stability of your brain's white matter throughout a life expectancy. Conversely, in a series of groundbreaking experiments, Daniela Kofer, University of California, Berkeley, Associate Professor of Integrative Biology, and her associates discovered that chronic stress and elevated levels of cortisol can interfere with gray matter brain volume and white matter connection. In 2014, Kofer et al. Released the research study, Tension and Glucocorticoids Promote Oligodendrogenesis in the Adult Hippocampus, in the journal Molecular Psychiatry. Could small acts of appreciation and empathy help reduce pain? Just one thing that jumped out at me after reading the new study from Wake Forest today was the correlation between mindfulness, pain decrease, and the activation of the anterior cingulate cortex. Last month, I wrote a Psychology Today post, Little Acts of Kindness and the Neuroscience of Thankfulness, based on a research study led by Antonio Damasio at USC, which taught that ratings of thankfulness associated with brain activity and the anterior cingulate cortex. The October 2015 study, Neural Correlates of Thankfulness, was released in the journal Frontiers in Psychology. While it is pure opinion on my part and an educated guess, it would seem that loving-kindness meditation and nurturing emotions of appreciation could possibly activate brain changes that trigger the anterior cingulate cortex, which is also associated with pain decrease. Along these lines, in 2014, neuroscientists in Italy reported that social pain activates the exact same brain regions as physical pain. The scientist also discovered that witnessing the social pain of another individual triggered a comparable physical pain response of empathy in most guinea pigs. The February 2014 research study, Empathy for Social Exclusion Involves the Sensory Discriminative Component of Pain, a within-subject fMRI study, was released in the diary Social Cognitive and Affective Neuroscience. This study also found direct links to the posterior insular cortex, also called the insula. These discoveries beg the question: could the triad of empathy, gratitude, and kindness interact to develop an analgesic causal sequence and upward spiral for social and physical pain on a neurobiological level? To my knowledge, there is no research that has studied the specific subject, but I'll keep my antenna up for any new research in this field. Chapter 3: Breathing Techniques. Under normal situations, breathing is automatic, mostly undetected, and mostly quiet. We barely notice it. That's till something fails. Here is one deep breathing method that can be done wherever to help you relax, decrease stress, and enhance well-being. Conscious breathing method. The purpose of this exercise is to silence the mind, not by force, but with mild persuasion. In this breathing exercise, you will try to quiet the mind by counting your breaths, which keeps your brain preoccupied with an easy job so that you can fixate on releasing stress from your body. Number 1. Be sure to find a quiet place and sit down with your back straight in a comfortable pose. Sitting cross-legged is good if you can hold that pose, but it is by no means required. Sit on the ground in nature, or on a cushion, or in a chair where you aren't likely to be disturbed. Take some normal breaths, making no effort to control or count them. Just settle and get comfortable. Number 2. And once you are done moving, scratching your nose or adjusting your legs, take note of the state of your mind. Is your mind racing from one subject to another, like a TV remote scanning channels? Is it obsessed by repeating one thought over and over again? That mental chatter is the background noise of your brain as it functions immediately. Aim to soothe the busyness of the mind simply by staying present in your body. If you have a problem to solve that you just can't stop thinking of, write it down on a notepad to resolve after you finish this breathing exercise. That way, you can more quickly empty your mind. After you end up the breathing exercise, you can re-engage your mind knowingly while you are still being in a quieted mental state. Number 3. To begin, breathe through your nose in long, slow, and deep inhalations, followed by extended, controlled, and even exhalations. You may feel likely to hold your breath after a particularly deep in-breath, which is fine as a variation. If you do hold your breath, breathe out that breath through your mouth, emptying your lungs as totally as possible, perhaps bending forward to squeeze as much air out as you can. Holding your breath once or twice at the time of a 50 count of breaths could help release poisonous tension with each hurrying out-breath. Do not be disrupted if you cough, because that is another way your body eliminates poisonous particles and toxins from the lungs. Number 4. Once your breathing has settled into a routine rhythm and your mind is concentrated on each breath, start counting with each out-breath. Allow the first 10 or so breaths to really settle you. Slow your breathing and start silencing your mind gradually as you continue to count your breaths. Aim for 50 long breath counts, but don't feel discouraged if you only do half of that. Even just several breaths can help unwind and de-stress the body and mind. While you are consciously breathing, notice the movements of your diaphragm and how your stomach rises with each in-breath and flattens with each out-breath. You could want to stress those belly movements and stretch your diaphragm as you continue. Give unique attention to those places where you are holding stress. Imagine stress being released from your shoulders, neck, back, etc., as you continue to focus on your breath. Hopefully, as you relax more deeply with each breath, you will feel the tension get rid from your shoulders as stress is released. Number 5. Encourage tension to release by surrendering to it and enabling it to pass out of your body through your breath. Knowingly unwind your neck, shoulders, or back a little more with each out-breath. You might want to turn your neck gradually to the right, back, and around again to the front with one breath, doing the exact same thing to the left during another breath. You may want to turn your shoulders to loosen them up. Do not worry if you lose track of the count. Just return to the last number you remember and continue this conscious breathing technique. Throughout this process, aim to surrender your body, releasing your psychological control over it. At times, your shoulders will relax and all of a sudden lower a notch instantly as stress releases. Just try to notice any changes in your body. Number 6. Take about 20 to 30 minutes to count breaths to 50. After counting 50 sustained breaths, you may want to continue counting your breaths, increasing their length and consistency. Or, you could deepen your meditation without counting breaths by adding an imaginative visualization. For instance, picturing being in a calm place. Number 7. If you don't have 20 minutes, just take 5. If you do not have 30 or more minutes to spend on a breathing exercise, take 5 minutes when you have them to breathe deeply and consciously. Make sure to find a quiet place and just take as many long, slow, conscious breaths as you have time for. Shake your shoulders, legs, and hands, and send out tension on its way. This can help you deal with difficult situations later. In summary, this breathing exercise can help you alleviate into much deeper meditations, enhance your lungs, and help you unwind. And when done daily, this little exercise can prevent your body from collecting excess tension, and it can give you a way to release past stress. So take good care of yourself and remember to breathe purposefully, much as possible, for health and longevity. Chapter 4. How to be more mindful. Mindfulness, as it is practiced in the West, focuses practically exclusively on self-awareness as a strategy to boost personal joy. When practicing mindfulness, you might think, "What am I thinking about, or feeling, or experiencing?" But this technique is flawed, simply because self-focus is a pretty lousy method for increasing joy. In our technology-crazed, social media-obsessed world, we are self-focused enough. The last thing we need is to practice mindfulness in ways that increase concentrating on ourselves. As a matter of fact, research has shown that mindfulness, as it is practiced in the West, isn't an especially good way to boost wellness and can even do hurt for some people in some circumstances. What is traditional mindfulness? Traditional mindfulness, on the other hand, encourages us to be present and pay close attention to all things. Personal things, yes, but also what is happening with other people, communities, and society as a whole. When we start focusing, I mean actually concentrating, we begin to see whatever we have been deliberately or unintentionally ignoring. For some of us, this can mean we uncover squashing guilt from having actually betrayed a person we love, deep rage about a civilization that looked the other way when we were attacked, or overwhelmingly unhappiness about the suffering of those who live in battle zones or on the streets. For other people, it can mean we discover unconditional love for our romantic partner, experiences that give us true pleasure or enjoyment in the small things we never ever realized had so much value. Usually, when we end up being more present, both the darkest and the brightest parts of our lives come roaring into view. For these reasons, standard mindfulness can be more tough, but also can be more impactful. How can we do better with mindfulness? Without reliable ways to manage the challenging feelings and insights that appear from true mindfulness, this experience can feel like too much to bear. This is the reason that it is so essential to be geared up with other emotional abilities before trying mindfulness, specifically durability skills, self-compassion skills, and positivity skills. Skills that help you deal with tough feelings and thoughts that rush to the surface when your eyes are suddenly broad open. When you develop the psychological abilities that allow you to use mindfulness successfully, it can feel practically magical. All those small thrills that show up simply as a consequence of being human becomes crystal clear, and all those buried and prowling negative emotions bubble to the surface area where they can finally be handled, maybe for the extreme first time. And our all-new awareness of the experiences of others leads us to live ethical, value-driven, purposeful lives. The outcome? We get a great deal of joy, emotions of connectedness. So you see, happiness can appear from mindfulness, not as a result of self-awareness alone, but as a side effect of our growing capability to see and write the true reasons for the personal, interpersonal, and social obstacles that are preventing our joy and well-being. So how do we practice this kind of mindfulness? Create mindful moments. If you're like me, sitting alone in a dining establishment waiting for my dining partner to show up or waiting for them to come back from the washroom provokes an unexpected amount of anxiety. Anxiety that is so easily eased off by pulling out a mobile phone. However, we should wonder, why is it that being alone with ourselves is so uncomfortable? We hardly ever ask ourselves this question, and as a result, we remain blissfully uninformed of whatever it is in us, or the world, that's causing us so much anxiety. And if we don't know what's causing it, we can't easily repair it. An example of a conscious mind. To discover for myself what was causing my anxiety, I decided that I would no longer take out my phone when I was alone at a dining establishment, bar, or other gathering. I would just sit there and be conscious, staying present, often with anxiety, discomfort, and worry. When I initially began this practice, the anxiety was extreme. This sucks. Just how long will I sit here with nothing to distract me? Maybe I should just pull out my phone. What damage could it do? I thought. It was incredible how strong the desire was to just abandon my conscious moment. But rather than letting fear drive me, I just sat, allowing my feelings to come and ultimately go. Each time I participated in a conscious moment, there was less anxiety than the previous time, and without the extreme feelings, I had the ability to pay more attention to the thoughts that were actually behind the anxiety. One time I realized, I feel nervous that some stranger will turn up and talk to me. That wouldn't feel safe. I don't want to be pestered, and if I'm on my phone, nobody will try to approach me. When the thoughts entered my head, instead of judging them or keeping away from them, I just sort of observed them with curiosity. I unexpectedly realized that my life experiences had taught me that being a woman alone in a public setting was unsafe. Whether it be that time as a kid when an adult man got my butt, or that time in college when an intoxicated boy trapped me in the stairwell, my brain had learned to be restless when alone in public. And because of that, I had this low level of anxiety that I took with me each time I was out in the world. By being conscious, I found the source of my anxiety. What to do with the info mindfulness gives us. The thing about being present and truly focusing is that we learn aspects of ourselves and our world that we might have been avoiding, perhaps with good reason. But we can handle these thoughts and feelings once they come into the light. I can now endure that anxiety better now than I can comprehend its source. I can also act to change my community and society at large, For instance, by talking honestly about my experiences, helping my male friends learn about how women experience the world, and supporting social groups that work to change the culture. When we try to just handle symptoms, like anxiety, the causes stay intact. Due to the fact that mindfulness can help us better reveal and get at the causes, it can be a more reliable way to increase happiness if done correctly. And taking this more social, cultural technique to resolving our issue is often more rewarding, just because it helps us move forward, and while at the same time helping others move on. Who may need professional help with mindfulness? I should remember, however, that the ones with extreme trauma, depression, and other difficulties like self-harm sometimes struggle with mindfulness. That is unreasonable, since the roots of this psychological pain might be a lot harder to look at than to deal with other kinds of emotional pain. Please look for the support of a therapist if this is you. How to be mindful. Although mindfulness is theoretically possible to practice anywhere, that doesn't mean it comes easy. It didn't for me. In the first attempt, I questioned, what do you mean be open and mindful? What else would I be? It was not until later that I found how to be completely aware, open, and accepting. To be more conscious. If you're mad, ask what you're actually angry at. If you're miserable, ask what it is you are truly miserable at. If you're anxious, ask what it is you are anxious about. Don't choose, I'm angry at Bob because he was impolite to me. Why does that disrespect matter? Why now? Why him? What is happening inside of you that makes you mad? To be more open. Try not to push away unpleasant thoughts or feelings that arise. You may feel afraid to cry in front of others or shout when you're mad. Attempt not to suppress those feelings. Rather, ask what might be leading you to suppress them. However, you should try not to produce excess feelings. Are you sobbing or screaming to get a certain reaction out of someone else? What are you intending to attain with your reactions? Try to stay present so you can just experience yourself as you are, instead of trying to contort it into some kind of box. To be more accepting. You should try to stop judging or censoring your feelings and thoughts. Seriously, stop it. You could have heard judgy statements like, "Boys do not weep," or "You're too sensitive," or "Get over it," and you will very likely continue to hear these things. All you can do is refuse to judge yourself or others for having emotions. Emotions are natural, and we all deserve ours. Do a quick mindfulness practice. At this moment, try to produce some negative feelings in yourself. An easy way to do this is to watch a motion picture or online video clip with a sad or emotional scene. Or, if you'd love to challenge yourself, you could imagine something in your own life, for instance, failing at something, being humiliated in front of a crowd, or an oppression experienced by others that bothers you. Once you have attracted some negative feelings, stop thinking about the negative experiences and just be. See if you notice any interesting body experiences, feelings, or thoughts. Practice not ruminating on the experience, but also not pushing the emotions away. Just be with yourself till your thoughts and emotions trail off. If you completed this post feeling truly shaky, upset, or overwhelmed, I would suggest getting the support of a therapist who can help you progress more effectively. But for all of us, developing true mindfulness can require time, so cut yourself some slack and take your time. Chapter 5. Beneficial Tips for Improving Your Psychological Focus. Remaining on job can be hard, but it can be especially difficult when you are surrounded by constant diversion. In today's always connected world, diversions are absolutely nothing more than a click away. Even during quiet moments, Interruption is actually within your reach as you find yourself checking your Instagram notices or the latest news updates. The capability to focus on something in your environment and direct mental effort towards it is critical for learning new things, accomplishing goals, and carrying out well across a wide range of circumstances. Whether you are attempting to end up a report at work or competing in a marathon, your capability to focus can mean the distinction between success and failure. Thankfully, focus is a lot like a psychological muscle. The more you work on building it up, the stronger it gets. Improving your psychological focus is attainable, but that does not mean that it's always quick and easy. If it was simple, then we would all have the razor-sharp concentration of an elite sports player. It will take some real effort on your part, and you might need to make some changes to some of your daily habits. Here are some suggestions and tips from psychology that can help you develop laser-like mental focus and concentration. Number 1. Assess your psychological focus. Before you start working toward enhancing your psychological focus, you may want to start by assessing just how strong your psychological focus is at the present moment. Your focus is good if you find it simple to stay alert, you set objectives and break jobs up into tinier parts, you take time outs, then get back to work. Your focus needs work if you daydream frequently, you cannot tune out interruptions, you lose track of your development. If the first set of statements appears more your style, then you most likely already have fairly good concentration abilities. But you could be even more powerful with a little practice. If you determine more with a second set of declarations, then you probably need to work on your mental focus a fair bit. It may take a bit of time, but practicing some good habits and bearing in mind your distractibility can help. Number 2. Get rid of diversions. While it could sound obvious, people typically underestimate just how many distractions stop them from concentrating on the task at hand. Such intrusions may come in the form of a radio blasting in the background or maybe an obnoxious coworker who constantly visits your cubicle to chat. Lessening these sources of diversion isn't always as easy as it sounds. While it could be as basic as turning off the television or radio, you might find it far more challenging to deal with an interrupting coworker, partner, child, or roomie. One way to deal with this is to reserve a certain time and place and request to be left alone for that time period. Another option is to seek out a calm place where you know you will be able to work undisturbed. The library, a private room in your home, and even a quiet place somewhere else. Several strategies you might want to try to reduce or get rid of such internal distractions are to make sure you are well rested prior to the job and to use positive thoughts and images to fight off anxiety and concern. If you find your mind roaming to sidetracking thoughts, knowingly bring your focus back to the task at hand. Number 3. Limit your focus. While multitasking may look like a great way to get a lot done quickly, it ends up that people are actually rather bad at it. Balancing several jobs at once can significantly cut down on performance and makes it much harder to hone in on the details that are truly crucial. Think of your attention as a spotlight. If you shine that spotlight on one specific area, you can see things really obviously. If you were to try to spread out the exact same amount of light across a pretty big dark room, you might instead only peek at the shadow it describes. Part of enhancing your mental focus is all about making the most of the resources that you have available. Stop multitasking and instead give your full attention to just one thing at a time. Number 4. Make certain to live in the moment. It is difficult to stay mentally concentrated when you are pondering about the past, stressing over the future, or ignored of the present moment for some other reason. You have most likely heard people discuss the value of existing. It's really all about putting away diversions, whether they are physical, your cell phone, or mental, your anxieties, and being fully mentally engaged in the current moment. This notion of being present is also essential for recapturing your mental focus. Staying participated in the here and now keeps your attention sharp and your mental resources focused on the details that really matter at a certain time. It may take a bit of time, but work on learning how to truly live in the moment. You can't change the past and the future has not happened yet. But what you do today can help you keep from repeating past mistakes and pave a course for a more successful future. Number 5. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is a hot topic now, and for good reason. Despite of the fact that people have practiced forms of mindfulness meditation for thousands of years, its many health advantages are only just recently starting to be comprehended. In one research study, scientists has personnel professionals take part in simulations of the sort of complex multitasking they participated in every day at work. These tasks had to be completed in 20 minutes and included answering phones, scheduling conferences, and writing memos with sources of info pouring in from multiple sources, consisting of telephone calls, emails, and texts. Some of the participants got 8 weeks of training in the usage of mindfulness meditation, and the results found out that only the ones who had gotten this training showed improvement in concentration and focus. Members of the meditation group had the ability to stay on job longer, switched between tasks less often, and performed the work more efficiently than the other groups of participants. Practicing mindfulness can include learning how to practice meditation, but it can also be as basic as trying a fast and easy deep breathing exercise. While this may look like a deceptively simple job, you may find that it is actually a lot more difficult than it appears. Thankfully, this breathing activity is something you can do everywhere and anytime. Ultimately, you are going to probably find that it ends up being simpler to disengage from invasive thoughts and return your focus to where it belongs. Number 6. Take a short break. Have you ever tried to concentrate on the same thing for an extended period of time? After a while, your focus begins to break down and it becomes more and more difficult to commit your mental resources to the task. Not only that, but your performance ultimately suffers as a result. Traditional explanations in psychology have suggested that this because of attentional resources being diminished, but some scientists really believe that it has more to do with the brain's tendency to ignore sources of consistent stimulation. So the next time you are working on a prolonged task, such as preparing your taxes or studying for an examination, be sure to give yourself an occasional psychological break. Shift your attention to something unassociated to the job at hand, even if it is only for some moment. Those brief moments of respite might mean that you are able to keep your mental focus sharp and your efficiency high when you actually need it. Number 7. Keep practicing. Building your psychological focus isn't something that will happen overnight. Even professional athletes need lots of time and practice so as to strengthen their concentration abilities. One of the initial steps is to recognize the effect that being distracted is having on your life. If you are having a hard time to accomplish your objectives and find yourself getting sidetracked by insignificant specifics, it is time to start putting a greater value on your time. By building your mental focus, you'll find that you have the ability to achieve more and focus on the things in life that truly bring you success, happiness, and satisfaction. This has been Mindfulness. How to practice mindfulness, meditation, and breathing techniques. Written by Erica Showdown. Narrated by Sarah Margrave.